Welcome back to BB World Live. Next up today is Justin Keel, who's an instructional designer at Frostburg State University in Maryland, and he's going to talk about how to make people feel like they're part of a community or part of a class when they're taking an online class. So, for those of you, have you ever felt alone when taking an online class? In this session, Justin's going to review some basic research on social presence and immediacy. Talk about some tools and an example of how an instructor can create a presence in an online course. Justin's an educator and a learner who's been employed in many different areas of education, be it K-12, community colleges, four-year university, and also workforce trainings. He's experienced in the areas of ed tech, program coordination, professional development, leadership, and online learning. So please welcome to the stage, Justin Keel.
Thank you, Vivek, for that introduction. Thank you, all of you here in New Orleans for taking time out of your schedules to attend, and thanks everybody that's online that you're taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend this session. And this is a great segue from the last session about creating those videos into a session about social presence. So just to let you know, I kind of look at this area from three different areas. One, I'm a full-time instructional designer at Frostburg State. I also teach adjunct online. I also have taken online classes as a master's student. I got my master's degree from a fully online university, and my doctorate degree is also a fully online doctorate program. So I try to look at this area of social presence from three areas: the design, the student, and the instructor all working together. So you can see these are kind of the three objectives that I have for this. I want to be able to review some terms so that we'll all have the same the language as we're going through. Review just a little brief part of some research in instructor presence, and then the biggest part, and why probably most of you are really tuning in, is so that we can get a list of some things that we can do to help improve the social presence in our classes. So I hope that you'll be able to grab one or two tips throughout the session as well. Now, you know, we all think of some of our online students. Maybe you've been an online student, and sometimes whenever an instructor just dumps their content in a class, this is kind of how you feel while you're trying to go through that content. So as we start here, I want to get us all in the mindset of a student. So let's think. You're a student. You're in an online program. This is your first class. You go into this class. Now, okay, you've been able to make it into Blackboard, you've been able to see stuff, but you have a question about the first assignment. So maybe you email your instructor. Maybe you post on the discussion board. Maybe you try to call them, and it's a day, 2 days, 3 days later, and you haven't heard anything. Really, as an instructor, you have to realize that you are you might be that student's only real point of contact at the university, the only person they feel comfortable talking to. They can't just stop by your office if you don't get a hold of them. So they feel isolated. They feel alone. And hopefully if you've taken online classes, you don't feel this way, but if not, we're going to look at a quick video here, and we'll see how a student might react to this situation.
All right, let's see here. What is that first assignment? That really doesn't make any sense. Let me look at the syllabus here. Okay, if you have questions, you should post a question on the discussion board. Okay, I can do that. Let's see here. Okay. Looking. No answer on the discussion board. Well, you know what? I've got his email here from the syllabus, so I'll just send Dr. Smith an email here. Okay, let me check here. Okay. Nothing on the discussion board. Well, let me check my email here. No emails. This is due in 2 days, and maybe I'll call him. Let's see here. Hey, Dr. Smith, it's Justin. I got your email, or I got your voicemail here. I've tried to send you an email. I also posted on the discussion board there. I'm having some questions about this first assignment. If you could just get back to me. All right. You have a good day. Thank you. Bye. Okay, this is due in 3 hours. Yeah, here, I'll just put this in the Word document. Yeah, I mean, I answered the question, so half a page should be enough, right? Yeah, I'll just go ahead and... I guess I'll just go ahead and submit it. I haven't heard anything from my instructor. I wonder if there's even anybody out there. All right, here goes. Yeah, let's see what's going on. What? I got a 62% on that assignment? Why? I mean, I answered the questions. No comments? Let me check the discussion board. Nobody's even answered my question. I don't think online learning's right for me.
Okay, so hopefully you haven't been that student, and hopefully your students aren't like that in your class. So really, I like to kind of compare this online environment to the face-to-face environment. So if I think of a question, what if I, as a face-to-face instructor, never showed up at class? What if, I had my classroom ready, maybe I stuck some quizzes over here, I have some journal articles over here, maybe some textbook over here, and I just stick them on different places in my face-to-face classroom, and my students show up to the first class, but I'm not there. I wonder, would they know what to do? Would they know what I expected them to do? And how would they know how to improve what they've done? That's that's kind of what I see my role as the instructor in the class. So if I wasn't there, I think they would start reading the journal articles by themselves, maybe taking a quiz. Would we expect that in a face-to-face class? So, that's kind of how some of these online students feel. They feel isolated, alone, and they're not sure what to do or who to ask, where to go. So in order to help address that, we're going to talk research, which I know is everybody's favorite part of every presentation. So we'll go through it fairly quickly, but we're going to look at the Community of Inquiry Framework by Garrison, Anderson, and Archer. And just as a side note, all the references in this slide, there is a reference slide at the end, so if you're going to look at this online later, you can forward to that spot if you want to relook at what research that we're talking about here. But the framework here of Community of Inquiry shows 3 different domains: social presence, cognitive presence, teaching presence. And then the student's experience in an online class is kind of where they overlap. So you have some degree of all 3 of these, and how they overlap is where we go. So if we look at cognitive presence, really this is kind of what we would expect. Students have to be cognitively involved in the process here. So this is how they construct meaning. We've got teaching presence, which is basically the design and delivery of the course. So it seems to be an area where the instructors are involved a lot. So all the design, all the delivery, how the instructor presents the course, that's the teaching presence. And then the social presence, and I kind of paraphrase this into, it's basically the projecting of a real person. It's the social aspects, being part of the community that the class becomes, which tends to be a lot easier in a face-to-face class with 20 students than even an online class with 5, 10, 25 students. So really what I'm going to talk about today is kind of the overlap between the social presence and teaching presence. It's knowing how to present your content, knowing about your content, knowing about the design, but it's also adding those social aspects to it so that your students feel connected and feel like you are a real person and not like the video where, it's one of those content dumps, sometime later somebody grades something and that's really the only interaction you ever have with the instructor. So the research says, really, here are 4 of some of the main points of instructor presence: immediacy, instructor to student interaction, the instructor's attitude towards online learning, and then this projection of a real person. So here, you can take a second here and look at kind of what the research says about this area, just a couple different examples. Now, I like to point out the first one there with the attitude and timeliness, right? Instructor's attitude and response timeliness affected student satisfaction. So that means you're teaching an online class. The dean said this class had to be online. You don't want to be teaching the class online, and you don't think it's going to be successful. Well, your attitude is projected to the students, whether you think it is or not, through your text, through your video, through whatever you're using in the class. And if your attitude is that the class won't be successful, your student reviews at the end will show that the class was not successful. So we've got these areas, and basically this research says attitude, timeliness, presence, immediacy all contribute to two things: satisfaction and achievement. All right, so it directly relates directly into both of those, the satisfaction and the achievement. So here's the big question that everybody probably signed up to watch this session for. So how do I do it? Well, let me make that two questions. How do I do it, and how do I do it so it's not a bunch of work on me? You know, that's the real question. I'm the online instructor as well, so how can I create presence without making extra work? So we'll look at immediacy. Immediacy is one of those things we talked about, and honestly, as soon as I see this word immediacy, I see the word immediate and think timeliness. So the students want us to answer emails. They want us to grade things quickly. And that's all true. They do want this. And one great way to do this is to set expectations up front. Now, I've seen somewhere buried in the syllabus, there's usually a line that says, I will answer all emails within 48 hours unless it's on the weekend. That seems fairly standard, and that's fine. But what we really need to do is to let the students know, that not just bury it somewhere in the syllabus, but let the students know what our expectations are. And we also have to live by them. Because the first time that it takes you a week to answer an email, the student already has tuned out that you're not really paying attention. But something else is included in this immediacy. As part of the definition, it's also verbal and nonverbal behaviors that reduce the psychological distance between individuals. So what does this look like? First off, those timely responses like we talked about. I probably go overboard. If it comes to my cell phone, which all my emails do, I tend to answer them, as soon as I can, which sometimes annoys my wife, but I'll get an email and I'll answer it. But my answer might be, I'll answer your question. I got your email. I'll answer it tomorrow. That way they know that I've received them. We're in communication. That's going on. So other ways we can do this on the online class. Asking questions. A student has written a discussion board or has a post, has a blog, has a paper that they've written, and they've written something, and just asking them a question about what they've written is a great way to connect with them. Oh, I see you said this. Have you ever thought about this? Like I said, I always love to play devil's advocate in my class. So whatever their opinion is, I try to take the opposite opinion and say, oh, have you thought about this, or have you read this article? Just to try to address them. And addressing them by name is also very important. So discussion boards, videos, however you want to do it, and contributing to some discussions. And then one easy way is just using the inclusive pronouns. Okay, this week we are going to, instead of you're going to, just use those inclusive pronouns. Another thing that I find very interesting is this instructor-to-student interaction. Students, we like to get our students working in groups, get them ready for the real world. But students feel like they're paying money to interact with you. That's what they say whenever they're surveyed. That's what they say in the student evaluations. And that, like in this quote, instructor to student over student to student interaction was found to be the most significant variable influencing student satisfaction. They want to hear from you. Well, in this, guess what? Everything that you put in their class is something that's reflecting on you. So if you're using a course copy from somebody else's course, if you have a master course model, the students don't know that and they don't care. Everything in that course they think is from you. So some ways that you can enhance that are personalization. Personalize everything you can. So feedback is one way. I know some instructors that, they'll do video feedback. I'm not into that, but they'll do a screen share. They'll have a paper up there and they'll just scroll down through it as they're going, or a project, and they'll just comment. They'll hit save, send that video. And for them, once they get that process down, they say it's a time saver because they're not, writing stuff down on a paper or typing it in. So that's a time saver. Me, I'm a little bit more, I don't say old school than that. I use canned feedback. I've got a Word document that's got all my feedback that I typically use for each assignment, and I can copy and paste. But the one thing I do is put the student's name in it every time I type a feedback. So I've got all this canned feedback, and I'll just say, Tim, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, you know. So he thinks I'm talking directly to him. Become involved in the discussion boards. I would encourage that, but that doesn't mean that you have to respond to every thread in every discussion board. Just pop in and out, and I try to at least engage with each student sometime throughout the course. That way they know that, number one, I'm reading them. And I know that's been a big thing when we work with some faculty members is, I don't even know if the faculty member even reads any of this stuff. All right, and then, interestingly enough, this projection of a real person. Now, the session that was just before me talked about creating those introductory videos, setting the stage, and really, we want to do that. We want students to feel like we are a real person, because we've got this whole Facebook phenomenon, I like to call it, where if they don't see you, they can say anything about you that they want to. We see the cyberbullying just because it's on the computer screen and not in front of somebody, and there's this quote from Wakefield. The internet acts like a kind of digital-fueled alcohol, freeing us to say things to strangers that we would never dare to say if we met them. So really what we want is for the students to feel like they've met us. And here's some things, you know, providing that personal introduction and including some personal information. Now, you know, not too personal, just as personal as you feel comfortable with so that they get to know you. Include frequent communication. Use images and video whenever possible. And I, you know, as an instructional designer, I work with faculty all the time that says, I hate recording myself. I'll give you my one little secret tip to that is, I never actually watch the videos after I record them. I sit down, I hit record, I record it, I hit stop, I send it. And then synchronous sessions, using Blackboard Collaborate I use in my class. Whenever we're working on a project, it's just a place for students to meet, talk to me, ask questions. And then I give them, after we talk about what we've planned on talking about, I give them free rein to talk about anything else that they need to, whether it's in the program or in my course. So we're going to watch a video here in a second. And what I do in my class is at the beginning of every week, it's usually Monday morning at about 8 o'clock, I sit down and I record a video. Now in this video, it has a little overview of what we did last week. Last week you did this discussion board post. I saw that Sally really had a great post. Maybe you should all go read hers. You know, you do, you kind of make it personal to them. And then this week we're going to do this. It really takes me about 5 minutes per class on a Monday morning. So here's an example of that.
Okay, welcome to week 2. All right, so this week, last week we got to introduce each other, and it was great getting to learn about each of you. This week, there's a couple things that we need to do. So this week we're going to start doing some more reading. Again, you'll have a reading quiz, like you'll have every module. And then we're going to do a discussion board. It's a mini case study about some ethical issues that arise whenever we're dealing in finance. So you're going to deal with that. Again, with a variety of different areas of nursing that you're each in. It should be interesting to see the different sides to this issue that can arise.
Okay, so there was the introductory video that I used, and this whole idea of social presence, it goes back to an old quote that whenever I was teaching in the K-12 environment that we said all the time, and that was really, you know, students don't care what you know until they know you care. So that's kind of like this whole real person thing, and why we want to do these introduction videos, because we want to make that personal connection, and then they will care about, you know, more about what we have to say, and it actually shows that satisfaction in the class and achievement is increased because of that. Now, let's go back and think about that student, that one that was really isolated, never going to set foot on campus, taking these online classes, and I'm going to say this next video, I will call it a video secret that I stole. I stole it from Dr. Patrick Lowenthal from over at Boise State University, so if any of you know him or talk to him, you can tell him that I gave him full credit for this, even though I use it in my class. And it's really a way to help connect students to your institution. And so sporadically throughout the semester, if they're working on a module that lasts 2 or 3 weeks, I'll throw in a video that's out in the campus somewhere. So I will apologize a little bit. There's a part of this audio where the wind's blowing. I come from a town of Frostburg. Now, I will tell you, it's not named for the weather. It's named for a family named Frost, but sometimes the weather looks like that's what it should be called.
Hello, everyone. Since we didn't have an assignment this week because I messed up the calendar, I thought I'd do a little video here since some of you have never been on campus at Frostburg State. I'm standing in front of Lowndes Hall here that houses the nursing department, where our faculty and staff are currently inside getting ready for our CCNE accreditation visit beginning of next week. And if we walk outside of Lowndes Hall here, you will all be able to see the upper quad here behind me. You can see Lowndes Hall behind me. And back in the background you can see our science building, and if I turn this way a little bit, let's see here, you can see the Guild Center, which houses our social sciences, and some open area up here on the upper quad. So just a little view of Frostburg. I hope you can hear this with all the breeze blowing into the microphone. And maybe I'll do another one showing the lower part of campus here at a later time. So enjoy. Get ready for next week. We'll have a larger case study for the next one. All right, enjoy your weekend.
Okay, so, I hope some of the examples that I used and some of the things that we talked about are something that you can easily and quickly implement in your class. I'll tell you just a couple, quick tricks. Number one, the videos. I record most of them with my iPhone using the iTunes app and just embed that link once it's on there. So I don't use personally, a production studio or any of that kind of quality stuff for my classes. We try to make it simple and quick to be able to, so that I can do new videos each week and not just, now the ones that we reuse in the classes are a little bit more high quality, but these personal ones that I do are just something that's very quick. So again, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to look at social presence here. And if you want to continue this conversation, again, we can meet on Twitter, just at Justin Keel. We can continue this conversation. I'd love to know some of the tips that you use, and we can keep this going. So thank you very much. Now,
Thanks, Justin. We've got a few minutes for some Q&A. I'll grab that. We got a few minutes for some Q&A, and thank you for calling out. I just actually checked your Twitter handle. I realized we follow each other there, so I encourage everyone else to add another follow here. I think one thing that I took away from that as well is something that was consistent with what Sylvia Sue was saying before. When you're making those videos, just make them authentic, because it seems like it's very easy for a student to see if it's forced or unnatural there. One question, actually the first one that came in was someone who had said that most of their online instructors have actually never taken an online class. So that creates an interesting paradigm there. Is there anything you do to kind of orient instructors that are in that situation?
One thing at our university, we require all faculty that teach online to actually go through what we call Teaching Online 101, which is an online course so that they have at least some experience in looking at what is an online class. Oh, if somebody doesn't respond to me in 4 days, it really feels like forever.
Yeah.
That type of atmosphere. So they, in that course, they're given, an option to, like, they take a course, but they also have a blank course where they're doing stuff in both areas.
What else is in that kind of 101 course or that training course?
Well, we heavily use Quality Matters at our school. So as we go through, the Teaching Online 101 is kind of twofold. It's about some introductory tools in Blackboard, but then it's also how do we use these tools to match standards. So, here's a discussion board. What can it be used for? Let's use a discussion board, and how can we match that up to meet the best standard?
Great. Another person had said, I think this is more of a general comment, and probably something that many of you in the audience are familiar with. A professor who said, I send messages on Monday every day of the week, and I try to write on most days. Tries to answer students, and then they have a virtual office hours and no one shows up. Anything you do to kind of keep them encouraged in those situations? I will.
It's interesting because I do an awful lot of looking at my own personal feedback that I get from students at the end of every course, and even those, and it can be discouraging because I can look on YouTube and like 3 people viewed this video, but what the students say is that just the mere presence of the videos or the mere opportunity to have that interaction influences their satisfaction in the class.
That's great.
I have students that never attend any of the Blackboard Collaborate sessions. A lot of the students I work with online are working nurses. So, they could be working at any time during the day. So some of them can't make any of the sessions. And they said just the opportunity for them to be there, if they would have a question, influences their satisfaction in the class.
That's great. One that had come in, I guess this was a conversation that was going on in the chat. How do you manage expectations among online instructors on their role in creating a social presence? Is that something you try to encourage, or is it, again, or is that one of those, if it's comfortable?
Yeah, and it's not comfortable for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Again, we have that, I work with a lot of people that says, I just don't feel comfortable recording myself. You know, so we try to start with, you know, okay, well, let's do a screen share recording. Let's do this. Let's, hey, you know, let's put a picture online. You know, start small and then we can build to, like I said, my trick is, like I said, I sit on my iPhone or my Surface, I hit record, I talk about what we're going to do in the week, and if I stumble, if I cough, my opinion is that's what they would have gotten in the face-to-face class anyhow, so that's really me. I hit stop, I take the embed code, I stick it in Blackboard, you know.
No, I agree. That's the same thing I do with some of the videos I've done for training. It's, you know, some of those pauses, I leave them in. Otherwise, it's frustrating, because you know, that when you're trying to record your voicemail greeting, just over and over, trying to get it perfectly there. But I think, you know, being authentic is a must there. I mean, you just made that joke about, hey, maybe this video only has 3 views, but do you pay attention to some of the analytics on the videos and other tools?
I do, because I like to, you know, if you know, I've got a class of 20 and only one person watches the videos, you know, I guess I can be underhanded sometimes. Sometimes I might throw, you know, an answer to a quiz question in the video, you know, some things, and say, oh, I didn't know that. Well, you should have watched the video. You know, that's, you know, not enough to break them, but enough to entice them into watching some of the videos.
A question, I know we had another question around transcriptions, but with closed captioning, how are you doing your closed captioning?
Right now, our university is looking at several vendors to do a universal video hosting and transcription solution. But right now, personally, I use, you know, YouTube auto captions. Then you can go in and edit the auto captions, and YouTube is usually how I do mine. That's why I keep my videos short, because I don't want to spend my whole day editing my transcripts. The other way is, you know, if you do have a script for what you're doing, you can actually upload those into YouTube as well, and they'll try to match the words.
Any tips? You said your students in your course were mostly nursing students, correct? So this question is around people that have classes with students all over the world. How do you try to have some of those synchronous sections or interactions?
What I've done is I usually have at least 4 a semester, and all 4 of them are different times, different days. So one might be Wednesday evening, one might be Tuesday morning, you know, my time. So I try to make them as available as possible for different people that want to participate. And all mine are optional, so they don't have to participate. And I record them so that they can go in later to see them.
Okay, that's great. Well, I think that's we're right at about time. So again, I know you mentioned your Twitter handle. I don't know if there are any other resources that you want to point people to, but why don't we just do that again?
But yeah, so it's at Justin Keel. If you didn't get to see the reference list, or if you want a copy of anything, just shoot me a message, or if we just want to continue the conversation, I'd be happy to do that too.
Okay. Well, thank you very much to everyone, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with some folks from KCTCS.